Waivers have already run in your league. You made some moves, but is there anybody out there still worth claiming or stashing? Is there somebody maybe you should be picking up before everyone else gets on him next week? I'm about to tell you. Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre, here to help you with some more waiver wire pickups. Now, you already went over the week 4 list, probably. Check out that video if you haven't already. But now it's time to get ahead of the game. We're going to look to some guys that are worth stashing. You know what? Not streamers for this week, not guys who might pay immediate dividends, but you might want to stash these guys now before everybody else does, before you even have to spend up on them. You can just pick them up and they'll help you down the road. So let's get ahead of the game and let's talk about some pickups for the future. All right, so I don't like to repeat a player too often because we want some fresh blood. You know, you've probably seen the last few weeks worth of recommendations, but I'm going to circle back around because I think this is important to Wan'Dale Robinson, because I did mention him early in the season. He still hasn't come back since that really early injury in week 1. So this is a rookie that got a lot of hype and buzz throughout training camp, looking good, but we weren't sure how he'd fit in with his Giants offense. Well, here's the thing. At this point, there is no Giants passing offense. It's Saquon Barkley, and that is it. And very unfortunate, of course, you saw Monday night, Sterling Shepard, who had a great comeback, a guy who's always injured. And then again, the very end of that game, a season-ending injury. I mean, you got to feel bad for the guy. Thing is, he was leading the team in target share. All right, this is a wide receiver group that already was kind of iffy going into the season, but now we see Sterling Shepard, who was looking good, 28% target share on this team, and now he's gone, like completely gone. Kenny Golladay, I mean, we don't even know if he's going to be on the team next week or the rest of the season. He had 9% of the target share, and he is non-existent. Kadarius Toney, don't even talk to me about this guy, right? He can't stay healthy for more than 2 days at a time. I'm not counting on him. Who are they going to go to? Right now, their top receiver is Richie James, and then they're throwing David Sills out there. Look, no offense to those guys, but they should not be the leading target for any offense at this point. I think it's clear this coaching staff, which did have a hand in selecting Robinson out of Kentucky, liked him. They found a lot of ways they're going to use him, and when he does come back, which should be pretty soon, I think that he immediately steps in and becomes one of, if not the top target on this team. And he's a guy who, yeah, you could say, well, he's going to need a lot of volume. Not necessarily. This is a guy who is used to being a hybrid player, running back / receiver, a return man, a guy who's explosive with the ball in his hands, and that's why they like him. I think in Brian Daboll's offense, he definitely has the potential for a big role. This is the time to grab him, and I think that he could definitely pay dividends, especially in full PPR leagues. Now, believe it or not, I'm going to stay with the Giants and their offense. That's right. So the thing is, you know what? Even bad teams can have good fantasy players. Opportunity presents itself. And a lot of the players on those good teams, guess what? They're already been taken. So we're going to look at a guy that could help you at a thin position. That is Daniel Bellinger at tight end. So this is a rookie 4th round pick. Again, this is this new coaching staff bringing in their guys that they think they can utilize. So what did we see in week 3? Because Bellinger, as a rookie tight end, well, of course, pretty quiet early on. But in this last game against Dallas, he had 4 catches for 40 yards and 5 targets. That's not too exciting, all right? I get that. Like, this isn't blowing you away. But the thing is, this was his first meaningful action in a game, and he was decent, right? He'll probably find the end zone at some point. But again, the opportunity is there for that target share to grow. So if it's already decent, it could get better. So I really feel like this is a tight end, this guy that they really like. Of course, he's an athletic build. They got him to be a receiving tight end. They're going to need him at this point. And the other thing with both Robinson and Bellinger, you have to look for the fact that even though you don't want to throw these guys in your lineup right now, weeks 6, 7, and 8 is a great schedule for the Giants, especially talking about the opposing defense. They get Baltimore, which, as you know, is pretty much the worst defense in the league right now. Maybe Washington can contend for that title. But then they get Jacksonville, and then they get Seattle. So leading up to when they have their bye, this is a great chance for some of these Giants players to actually put up points. So right now, I'm looking to stash, if I need a tight end or I just want some upside at that position, stash Bellinger and definitely Robinson. Another offense that is struggling to put up points, but really shouldn't be, is the Denver Broncos. Get a million questions about Russell Wilson this week, and I get it. You're worried, and you have a reason to be. But look, they'll get better. New head coach there too. New system. Russ is still getting acquainted to things. They will get better, I think. But here's the thing. Maybe they get a shot in the arm from the return of KJ Hamler. All right, so we know Cortland Sutton has been good. Judy, a little uneven, but he's there. They really have no depth there at receiver because Tim Patrick, is out for the year. The tight ends have just not done anything consistently. KJ Hamler is expected to kind of be that third guy, that vertical threat, could work in the slot. Well, he actually was active again in week 3. He's coming back from an ACL tear, so that knee was not 100% to start the season. He looks like he's getting a little bit better, not active in terms of getting targets, but again, we're looking at stashes, guys that, down the stretch, maybe for the second half on, could help you. Look, they need a guy like this. He is a physical stud in terms of all the skills that you need. He's got the speed. He's got decent size. He can get down the field. This is a second-round pick from a couple of years ago. They have a lot of high hopes for him. It's just injuries have kept him off the field. He's, in his brief career, averaged 13 yards per catch. So if he can become that vertical threat for Russell Wilson, look, I can't say that he's a guy you're going to plug and play each and every week, but he can give you some of those boom weeks, especially in good matchups. So he's definitely worth stashing in deeper leagues. Now, running back, pickings are always slim, but let's look to the situation in Detroit. Well, we don't exactly know with DeAndre Swift what the deal is. We do know he's not 100%, and we know that Swift typically doesn't perform well or at all when he's not 100%. Kind of been pushed by his running back coach, Deuce Staley, to kind of fight through it, and maybe that wasn't a good idea because now they're saying that he might be on the shelf for a couple of weeks, maybe through their week 7 bye. So either way, you can't trust DeAndre Swift this week. If he does miss multiple weeks, well, it's Jamal Williams, but they need another guy. They're not going to run Williams into the ground, and that brings up Craig Reynolds. You might remember him from late last year when DeAndre Swift was hurt, and Reynolds got a lot of action, which was surprising because absolutely nobody knew who Craig Reynolds was, right? He's not a high-end prospect. You know what? He's not a very speedy running back relative to the rest of the NFL, but he was the guy they trusted. They gave him 55 carries and he got 230 yards, so 4.2 yards per carry. That's serviceable. That'll do. This Detroit Lions offensive line is actually one of the better ones in the league, and this offense clearly looks better than it was last year because they have more vertical threats and more of a passing game. So you know what? Reynolds could be more effective. He could get some goal line touches. So I think Reynolds is worth stashing, especially if you do have DeAndre Swift. You know what? The ceiling isn't super high, but again, if you're desperate at running back, which is a lot of us, because if you look on the regular waiver wire for a guy who can help you right now, there is just not much. All right. So at this point, I think Reynolds is worth stashing in case Swift, hopefully not, but does miss extended time. And then finally, a rookie wide receiver. Look, all the rage these days is you get a guy who is just entering the league and you see him go off. I mean, these rookies are outproducing veterans who you think you'd be reliable, but they're not. So I'm going to talk about Alec Pierce of the Colts. So Pierce is a guy who has been pretty quiet. First game of the season, he played and he didn't catch a pass. Second game of the season, he didn't play, right? He missed with an injury. And then he kind of appeared because he had, 3 catches for 60 yards, I think in week 3. So the thing with Pierce is he's viewed mostly as a guy who's just that deep threat, right? He's just there kind of to keep the secondary honest while Pittman gets all the work underneath. And to some extent that's true. But here's the thing. He made a couple of big plays in week 3, but in that week 1 game, I noticed something. And the fact that he got 0 catches means there's probably not much to notice. He got 2 targets, but both of those targets were in the end zone. And to me, that is significant because if you look what happened also in week 3, Jelani Woods caught 2 touchdowns. Jelani Woods is a tight end, right? We know Matt Ryan likes to go to tight ends. He likes to throw it in the red zone to those bigger targets. I think Pierce is going to get more end zone work down the stretch. Now, obviously, Michael Pittman is that guy who's going to be the number 1 option. Defenses know this. Defenses will double and smother Michael Pittman. That's how a guy like Woods gets open. That's how Mo Alley Cox will probably score a touchdown here and there. I think Pierce also emerges. I like his touchdown upside, and I like the fact that he can get those big chunk plays. This is a guy who, for his size, right, he's I think 6'4", it runs a 4.4. I mean, this is somebody who has one of those elite speed scores. It's a type of receiver who can really thrive with a veteran quarterback. like Matt Ryan. Okay, so it might take a little bit of time. I'm not saying I would add him for sure right now, but look, Pierce is a guy I had my eye on all throughout this preseason and the draft process, and I think he could eventually thrive in this offense because let's face it, what else do they even have at wide receiver? I think Pierce gets a lot of action, more than people think, because Paris Campbell just does not exist. Ashton Dulin, you know what? He's okay, but I really think Pierce is a guy who takes over that number 2 role at receiver. So I like his upside, especially in standard and half PPR leagues. All right, hopefully we'll help you beat the rush to get these guys before they go off. If you want to check out our regular waiver wire for this week, our start sit advice, and everything you need to help win in week 4, check out our playlist right here. And of course, join us on Saturday for our start sit show, and consider subscribing if you haven't already.